So, welcome to this episode of Answers with Adam. And this time I'm going to be answering a question that Kym Madden asked. I'm going to just summarize really quickly the question that she asked through Facebook. So, thank you first, Kym, for submitting this question. She asked the question, as we ask people their best hopes, are we really getting at something that reflects basic human needs, right? And she goes on to say, if we get beyond just the strategy part, which I think is a really important clarification, and we get to, so what difference would this make to you? Then she asks, does this really get at the universal needs that everybody has? And she lists some things that might explain what universal needs are. Things like safety and security, peace, contribution, expression, belonging, well-being, achievement, growth, connection, right? And she's saying, in some sense, are we just trying to get to basic human needs or universal human needs? So I want to first say it's a really, really great clarification that you made in your question about getting beyond the strategy, right? Because what this means is we're truly getting to what somebody's best hopes is. So thank you, first of all, for making that clarification. The second thing that I want to say is it's going to be really important to be careful not to go into a session or a question like, what are your best hopes, with any expectation that we need to get something in particular, right? And what I mean by that is if you go into the session thinking, I need to find a universal need, each client will answer this question really, really differently. And so some person might answer really readily and give you something that you might consider a universal need, and somebody else may not. And so you don't want to go into the session expecting that that's what you're going to need to find, or else you might find yourself really struggling with particular clients because they may not answer that way or they may not be thinking that way. So that's the first thing that I would say is you got to be really careful not to walk in with a particular expectation. The second thing that I want to highlight is that this is really about a transformation, right? So when we're looking for what constitutes a really good best hopes or a best hopes that we can build on, it's something that the client wants to change, right? It's something that the client wants to transform. And the reason that I think that that's really important is that much of the description that's going to come after this is about noticing change, noticing difference. So if I can answer, is this best hopes about a transformation? Then I can ask the question, once that transformation occurs, once that change happens, what are signs that you'll notice? What are things that'll stand out? What are things that will be different, right? A change can be anything. I can change who I am as a person. I can change where it is that I live. I can change a lot of things. And this comes back to your original question as well around, once you've asked, and what difference would that make to you? One of the questions that I think can be really, really valuable is, and what difference would that make, right? And what I mean by that, you can get difference in two ways. What would you notice that's different? And what would it mean if that difference occurred, right? And so meaning making can happen later on in the session as you've gone along. And so that's the third thing that I really want to highlight, is that oftentimes we think of the desired outcome as the end result, what it is, the destination that we're trying to get to. But I want to also highlight that we can think about it as a beginning point. We can think about it as the beginning point. We can think about it as the first step of a conversation. So meaning develops through the co-construction. So instead of going into it thinking, I need to find a universal need, then we go in and we say, what's the very first thing that they say and they respond? And then how do I build on that with the next question? And how do I notice difference and change in that question? And then ultimately I can ask, and what difference would it make to you in order to achieve that? And if you were able to see that occur in your life, what meaning would that have to you? So it very well could be that we are going to get a universal need as an answer, but we may not, right? We may not get that universal need, but we can still build a conversation. This is something that the client wants, and that is a transformation. So don't go into it expecting that you're going to get the same kind of an answer from every single person, because you may not. Thanks again, Kym, for your great question.